Is it? That's what I'm thinking. So, you cannot hear me properly? Is it too low?
No, ma'am, it's fine.
Okay. Is it fine for everyone? Just wanting to make sure. Okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So let's start. So where did we stop last time? So we shall pick up from there. Uh, so far, how many software development lifecycle models have you come across? Let us revise. So what are the software development lifecycle models that we have already discussed? So what all do you recall from the software development lifecycle models we have discussed so far? Anyone? Uh, is my question clear? Hello? Are we connected? Okay. So far we have talked about the waterfall model, the spiral model, the iterative waterfall model, and the V model. And now we are sort of trying to explore the agile methodology. So starting with agile methodology, we understood that it is an iterative software development process. So in the last previous class, we had studied that these are some vital concepts, and I will slowly walk you through these concepts in Agile. The importance of understanding this is it's quite commonly used, and so there is a structure, there is a systematic structure associated with Agile. So it is good to understand how this may be applied to the software journey that you are in, and maybe you can pick up some things from the concepts of Agile that could help you in your own software development process. And I also want to say that from this week onwards, I will start meeting two groups every day, trying to discuss their progress. So I think 4 to 5, I have kept this slot of meeting half an hour with each group. So these kind of status meetings will happen every week, sequence wise. So I thought that it is important to understand what is going on in your group projects. Is that okay? All right. So we talk about sprint. So what is a sprint in agile methodology? So basically, sprint are short. Just a second. So is my screen visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So just I think some error I'm facing, but it's okay. All right. So basically, sprints are short time box period in which you are trying to understand what you may do in your product development. So it's just a period or the duration in time for which you decide a particular objective in your software product development and you focus on that functional requirement or that user case for that period of sprint. So for example, in our lab, we had tried to understand the functional requirements of our software. So functional requirements usually means the use cases. So maybe for particular sprint, you would want to designate a particular user story that you want to focus on as a team. Once you developed it, then you go to the next sprint, which will have another set of user story that you want to develop. So the iterative nature, I hope you can appreciate, comes from the nature of how the product is developed using agile methodology in form of sprints. So a big project is literally broken down into multiple sprints, and even within sprints, there are specific information that is uh, taken care of. So this is how the product development proceeds with time. Okay. So next, how a sprint looks like. Do you see my entire slide or do you see the preview also? Because on my laptop.
We see the preview also.
Okay, because it's working quite in a funny manner. Anyway, all right. So moving forward, can you see this diagram for single sprint?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if you notice, what is happening here is, see, you have a vision of your project. Then again, you are releasing the planning. So planning is basically released in the form of software requirement specification document, in which you put the strategy that you will be using to develop your software and all these details. We will be also talking about SRS in quite detail in our upcoming lectures. So basically, you try to take a piece of the big cake that you're trying to bake and try to focus on that pie in the sprints. So then you plan, you implement, you review it, and then there is something called as the retrospect. Basically, it is similar to meaning in the English word. So you try to see, looking back, what has worked, what has not worked, and then you again. So this is important before you do another sprint. So there is a sort of feedback, something maybe called as a feedback forward that is happening from the previous sprint to the next sprint. So the important thing is that uh, sprints help teams follow agile principle of delivering working software frequently. See, again, basically you're trying to develop a small level prototype of the software. In this particular manner, it is incremental. Sometimes it will be iterative. So basically, the intention is to develop something so that it can be reviewed in a better way, and then after the review by comments or clients or stakeholders, you can respond to the changes over following a plan. So what, again, bringing back your attention to the philosophy of Agile, which is followed through sprint, is that it's transparent and it is adaptive and flexible. So, I hope you can appreciate the depth of thinking that goes inside when you're actually developing a software. And there are certain parameters which determine how successful a software product will be after it has been fully developed. And trust me, it comes down all to the details and the depth of the planning that you have done in the entire process. So when there are multiple sprints in the Agile, so again, you have to do something called a sprint planning. In that, what you mainly do is, see, you don't have to get everything right. We are not talking about perfectionism here, but we are talking about good enough things. Because when we develop good enough things and when we aggressively review them, then we can again better them. So always remember, things do not have to be perfect. Nobody is looking for perfection here or anywhere. We just incrementally grow. So when you are planning a sprint, there are two questions mainly you need to ask: that what work can be accomplished in the upcoming sprint. So be able to decide what work can be accomplished in the upcoming sprint, what do you think you need to know so that you can plan well? What is it that you think you need to know so that you can plan well? Uh, yeah, so on this side of my screen is the class. So to be able to be in a situation in which you can plan better for the upcoming sprint, what do you think as a team you require? What are the prerequisites of proper planning? What do you think? Anyone? What do you think are the important things we need to understand when we are sort of planning things in the software development?
What are we going to build in this room?
Sorry, Tarun, you're not audible properly.
Just a second.
Can you please repeat? So, to be able to plan, one thing you must know is that total immersion in what you are
Hello.
trying to do,
Am I audible?
so that you can. Yes, yes, you are.
Yes, ma'am. We need to know what we want to exactly build. What are the modules and who in the team knows what to build or the skills of the teammates.
Okay. So again, we are talking about, when we talk about skills of the teammates, we are talking about the execution part of it, the execution of the planning. But to be better able to plan and strategize, what is it that as a collective team should know?
Research about the topics we need to build.
So definitely, you have to have a very high quality level of relationship with the software problem that you are trying to solve, or the problem that you are trying to solve, and uh, lot of amount of impartiality is also required, because you are here trying to solve a particular problem. So absolute immersion in the problem is important, because then only you can visualize in your head how the data is flowing, or visualize the pipeline of how one thing leads to another, and that is how you plan. And then after you plan in the sprint, then again you come back to, okay, now we have planned, how do we get it done? So these are the two main questions. So when you are sitting with your team also, and if you have broken down your software into the set of functional requirements that you will be building slowly depending on the priority, then with start of each sprint you must ask among yourselves that what is it that the next functional requirement or the next user case we want to focus on, and how will it get done. So basically the product owner, so there are certain roles in the agile methodology. So in the product owner discusses different sprint objectives and project backlogs. We will be talking about what backlogs are. So basically who could be the product owner according to you? Who is the product owner in the context of software development?
Client,
Client, okay. And who else could be called as the product owner?
developers, the senior of developers.
Yeah, so the ownership is rather than holding a monopoly on the product ownership, it is sort of distributed, but one party sharing it more than the other. So again, it is a obviously not many people constitute product owners, but a few key people like stakeholders and even project managers would, because they have to talk among themselves and follow a sort of collaborative approach. So that is why there is a collaboration for choosing the right work items in sprint planning. The Scrum Master, who is overlooking the entire process of Agile, how the sprints are running, the backlogs and retrospectives. So this master is there, and the development team is there. And all these entities are sort of collaborating with each other to understand the goals that can be reached out in sprint. So you see, manifestation is always a consequence of planning. So better the planning, the high quality will be the manifestation, but it doesn't always stop at the manifestation or the outcome. There is something that has to be done after even the outcome, which is the review. So review is also very important part of it. But yes, as you are slowly progressing in your software product project, you need to follow a systematic approach. A haphazard approach will lead to haphazard solution. So the process should be very clear in your head, and we will discuss it and it will become much more clear as I have individual meetings with the groups. So again, during the sprint, the team has a daily stand-up meeting. So usually, when I was in this company, so every morning at 11 o'clock, because by 11 o'clock, all the employees are already in the office. So we used to have stand-up meetings, and that used to be daily. So obviously, it's not feasible in academic setting because you have many other things to do as well. But what happened in daily stand-up was that people sort of tell that what they were working on, how far they have progressed, and what do they intend to do for the next coming days. So that, and it used to happen with all the team members because everyone associated with that development project is aware of what is happening and where all of us stand in this journey of developing the software. And not only that, it also helps us to recognize and bring out in the open the challenges, the blockages that people might be facing. So this is how stand-up meetings were done. And after every sprint, so when a sprint is running, sprint will be mostly around 2 weeks period, and in those 2 periods, people are working, but stand-ups are happening every day. So in the context of yours, maybe you can have stand-ups every fourth day because daily, obviously, it's not feasible. And after a particular sprint is over, as I said, planning, outcome, but then review and feedback. So after sprint, the team demonstrates what they have completed and sort of present the work, and then the work is out for review. Uh, so what happens with this, sprint level reviews is you minimize the extent of the mistakes that might happen in the long process of software development. It is always easier to uproot a sapling than to, uproot a tree. So keep that analogy in mind when we talk about sprint. And then what happens in sprint retrospective is, of course, that also happens once a sprint is complete. You identify areas of improvement for the next sprint. So how we can minimize the mistakes that we may have done in the previous sprint so that they do not replicate or repeat in the next sprint. We learn a lot from review and feedbacks and constructive criticism. So that is a very important part of it. And normally, you see, we are not trying to project ourselves as smarter than someone else when we are trying to work in the team. It is always helpful to remember that we are working as a team trying to develop something, and we have to take advantage of the heterogeneity of skills that we have in our team members. So when you are planning sprints, it is always, I think I would call it, it is always very prudent to not pretend to know more than what we do. So we should be very calculative also in what we should try to focus on in the sprint, and that can only come when your understanding of what you want to do and the understanding of the skills of your team. If that is clear, then you can really plan in a better manner. So there are certain things that you must remember when you are working using agile methodology. So everyone should try to understand the sprint goals. and how the outcome of the sprint will be measured. So we have already discussed, I think, that the disadvantages or the tragic consequences when in a team itself people have a different understanding of the problem statement or different understanding of the goal. And the very reason that standards happen daily is that if someone is not on the same page as the team, then they can sort of catch up with the group. So that is why if there is any lack of clarity among the people who are working on a project, so that is why it will reflect in the sprint objectives. So one, you must remember when you are planning your sprint objectives that the sprint goals are very, very clear. Uh, it is very common to see uh, over promising and under delivering. It's very, very common. And so try to stay grounded. Try to keep your approach simple, but know what you're doing in a very, very clear manner. If the image in the mind is fuzzy, and obviously it takes time for a fuzzy image to become more concrete, but you have to really spend time thinking about it and talking about it among your team members, and debating each other's opinions also, rather than taking personally. So all these things are very important, and I understand working in team is not always very easy, but mostly in the software development or in any big projects for that matter, uh, collective work is important. And that is why, there's always a very intelligent way to navigate through all these things, even in teamwork. So try to keep the focus on the goal, try to plan your sprints in manner that everyone in your team understands what they are doing, but do not flood yourselves or your team members with tasks, because ultimately what it is, what you plan in the beginning of the sprint, by the time sprint ends it should be done. It is unacceptable that it is not done, because if it's not done, then it directly means that the planning was not good, and in retrospective you would want to do a better planning, so that by the end of the next sprint the things are not repeated. So you actually end up creating the user authentication in a week or 1.5 weeks if you thought that in this period we will be able to accomplish it. Then there is absolutely no space for any kind of alibi, because it is like the team is giving work to itself. So when the team is giving work to itself, then there is a sort of confidence associated with it. And since you are giving work to yourself, then it's like your own personal ownership that yes, we will do this. So this way, Agile gives us the freedom also to, decide how to plan the sprints. Then after sprint review is done, try not to ignore the concerns of the team members or the roadblocks they may be facing. So again, coming back to how important the communication is. See, I want you to appreciate the fact that there is so much more that goes into development of a software. I mean, I have so much of confidence that, you all will be able to code and program. I have absolute confidence in that. But the thing is that I also want you to become independent mentors for your own projects. Ultimately, that is the goal. And that can only happen when you know the process so well, not just theoretically, but because you are learning it by doing something. So, uh, and that is why we are discussing all these life cycle models, because uh, to be able to influence positively a software survival rate, these things are very, very important. So, this is one of the tips that comes from the makers of the Agile. They say that we should focus the first part of sprint planning on the objective of the sprint rather than the details of the backlog. So always focus on the outcomes, because then you can always focus on the backlog. So your first focus should be that by the end of the sprint, what functional module of the software should be ready. That's it. So we try to keep things simple, less complicated. So when we can simplify things in our heads, we can actually see it going through in the work that we are doing. So I understand that it is easy to get bogged down by multiple, things to be done in a project, because there are so many dependencies floating around. Data is floating, then there are non-functional requirements as well, and that is where obviously the strength of the team comes into picture. So it's extremely difficult to, and time taking also if you're working on the project on your own. But planning and strategy always helps. It is you see, most of the things in life are a process. You do not arrive at something overnight. So that is why you should have clarity on, as we discuss in the lab, how you determine the priority. And in most of the reviews that I have done, I have changed the question. So most of you have given high priority to user authentication, and I was a bit puzzled to see that, because if it's a time bound delivery, and maybe for the local college level only, and if you have to show or demonstrate your solution, so how important user authentication would be if the main task that the software is expected to do is not doing. So that is why there are many parameters on which the priority of the tasks is decided, and that is important. So, but do not get sad about the fact that we know nothing about this. Of course, when we start doing something, the knowledge level is not that high, but as we progress, it improves. So that is why this sprint and developing small user stories through sprint, it's basically an empirical process. You do, you experiment, you see, you observe, you review, then you do the process again. And that is why it's called as the iterative software development. And I really hope you can appreciate and sort of have a expanded mindset that there is much more to software development than we acknowledge. So always try to gain as much clarity as possible on the work. And that clarity comes when we discuss, when we talk. The software doesn't, build by itself. There's a lot of planning and strategy that happens that is then executed. So, the flawlessness in education, in execution is actually a reflection of the way it has been planned. Simplify things. And again, do not operate in fuzzy world. Try to gain details about what you're doing, how it may work, what module might get challenged due to some other module, what are its dependencies, and how do I sort all these things. So that is extremely important. So again, another tip that is coming is that, you see, and it's quite prominent in industries also. Uh, People do not always talk in clear manner. Mostly, we are talking in a very vague, abstract, and general manner. But when we are doing a project, it is very important to be crisp and to the point and to be precise. Because talking general and abstract doesn't really tell us anything, because you are doing a project in a particular context. And for that project to be successful, you have to get to the details. So when we don't know something, that is entirely different from being vague about it. So try to gain clarity of what you're doing, and this will develop in our labs also as we go forward. But again, I'm emphasizing on the fact that if you don't know what you are trying to accomplish, we may not be able to accomplish it. So this is extremely important to remember. Any questions at this end? I understand it's a bit theoretical, but it is important to know, because Agile is not just a process, but it's a philosophy, and it will really help you not only software development, obviously it will help you, but it will teach you how to think. Next time when you're doing any project, it will help you how to approach that project. So few of the best practices for sprint planning is to, again, we are not expecting perfectionist in the getting the details right, but just right enough or good enough is fine, because review and feedback process will always come handy. And appreciate the skills that your team members bring into the software development. I understand it is easy to feel despondent also sometimes, but almost always when we bestow trust on our team members, they do deliver. So try to motivate everyone when you're working in a sprint or planning your projects, so that you can learn far greater lessons of working in a team by doing the kind of project. And things will not go as planned. They hardly go as planned. But it is always important to remember that we have a choice to respond. So we can respond. Because ultimately the goal should always be on the product that you are trying to develop. So these are some of the best practices, and I hope you do take some of the lessons from Agile methodology, because then you can actually see by doing the project whether it really makes sense or not. So, I'm not trying to describe all this just for the theoretical point of view, but I actually want that you can sincerely use this process or this philosophy in your software development, and then later on when we are meeting in the final review, maybe you can tell me your own experience of, you know, of using the different kind of life cycles and what do you feel about that. So daily stand up, I have already discussed. It doesn't last more than 15 minutes and generally done every day in the software industry, but in obviously academic, it may not be that feasible because you have your other courses also. But again, the purpose of daily stand-ups is to get a sort of summary of what everybody is doing and what they will be focusing on, and if they are blocked by anything. What do you think are the downsides of daily stand-ups? So you have seen the positive side of daily stand-up. What do you think could be the not so bright sides of daily stand-up?
When we feel stuck, it would bad, like we feel bad to say that in the daily stand-up.
We feel bad to say what?
When we get stuck.
Okay. So
um,
what makes one feel bad about saying that they are stuck?
Generally,
Huh?
not we are supposed to learn and do it rather than asking.
Yeah, but it is practically impossible to know everything. So it's okay if, see, the bad thing is not to get stuck, but to remain stuck. So help is always available, and because ultimately, when you bring out the issues that you are facing, there is always someone to uh, help or extend support. So don't feel uh, intimidated by accepting. Maybe that is what all of us need to learn. Anyone else, what do you think would be the downsides of daily stand-ups? Some employees often come to office on time because of the stand-ups. 11 a.m. stand-up is there, so I have to be in the office by 11 a.m. What do you think would be the other downsides of stand-ups? Or should they be done daily, or should there be any change in that process?
If they are done daily, it may be too repetitive. Or something.
Yeah, it could be, or maybe if the project is quite complex.
If the things are straightforward, it's waste of time to keep stand-up as I believe.
Okay. Yeah, so it again depends on the complexity of the project as well. Sometimes it is not easy to see the output in a short amount of time. So when you are fixing bugs, then the progress can be seen that the bug is fixed in a day or so. But when you're actually developing on a much complex solution, then you're working on the modules, but may not have something very tangible to discuss or show. So, see, again, always whatever you read or theory, always try to not just accept it on the face value. Try to critically think over it also. Most people, see, the pace of working of all the people is very different from each other, right? And we have to always arrive at a common platform in which the pace of everyone is respected. Obviously, that's very difficult, but daily stand-ups, people might get sort of intimidated because after some time I had noticed that Agile was quite new, but after a month or so, people had started panicking. And they would say, I don't know what to say at my daily stand-up now. So,
If we do less on that day, we feel like so intimidated to even go to the office.
yeah. So, again, see, when we sort of impose things, they always have a expiry date. So even within a team, the managers and the product managers should think that what is working for their own team, how could they customize Agile for their own team, looking into the view, the potentialities and the behavior and the psychology of all the colleagues they are working with. So try to make it uh, easy. If not easy, try to make them not feel that they have to do it because they have to do it, because this kind of approach never really lasts long. So this is one of the, personally I feel, could be the drawbacks of stand-ups, and mostly people may not speak out, but this is, you should always try to remember. So, but in stand-ups when they're happening, there are three main questions, and these three questions everybody is answering in a circular fashion or something like that. That what are they currently working on, what they finished, and if they are blocked by anything. Normally, it's more of a friendly discussion, so it should not be reduced to an opportunity or a situation to uh, label someone in any other manner. Again, always remember you're working as a team. It's a unit. So you have to ensure that because the chain is broken by the weakest link. So you need to ensure that everybody is supported. And mostly it turns into a sort of competition that someone is able to accomplish much more than the other. But the daily stand-up should not be about it. So make sure that when you are doing your stand-ups in your team, uh, you look at the project from a higher perspective, and then try to discuss the stand-ups and how you go forward, and try to really listen to the concerns of your team members, because that's the whole point, right? I mean, people are not standing around you just to spit out what they have done. It's much more than that is going around. So try to remember that, and if so, understand the duration in the days for which you will have your daily stand-ups, and that can only come when you really know the people you are working with, and that is extremely also crucial to the success of the project. So again, there are many ways in which stand-ups are done. Mostly, sometimes people make it fun. Also, they roll the ball and the ball stops. So people are speaking about that. Coming back to retrospectives, as I had mentioned earlier, after the end of iteration, so typically around 45 minutes per week or 90 minutes after 2 week sprint. So after the sprint is ending, there is obviously sprint review is also there, but there is something called as retrospectives also, in which you try to understand what is working so that the team can focus on those areas and reinforce the strength of their team. They are working literally on their strengths, and to find out what is not working so that they do not repeat it. I'll take this moment to again emphasize the fact you must see what is happening in the background in the software development among the various entities that are connected with the software development process. They are discussing, reviewing, getting the feedback, then going back to their work desks, coding, developing a prototype, then coming back and reviewing. And all this sounds like uh, quite a rigmarole type quite hectic. But again, nobody ever told that software development was easy, right? So, and good software development is easy. So essentially, the idea should be that later on, even after this module, if you sit out to make any project, uh, then you become your own master and try to create it independently, even in hackathons when you participate. So retrospectives are important because they provide ongoing guidance for the team to keep the things going well. So always being engaged in an active communication of what is working. So it is actively participate in the software development project. Don't be just a passive coder. Actually remain active and reason with what you are creating. Talk to it and see, how things work out. Coming back to backlogs. So most of the time what happens is that although backlogs rate should be very less, but sometimes we may not be able to accomplish. So this becomes the backlog. So in the starting of the next sprint, what happens is you focus on the backlogs first, because there was obviously a reason that you had sort of planned that event in the previous sprint, and if it has not worked out, then definitely it needs to be done, because maybe in the next sprint it might be some sort of dependency. So what becomes the backlog from the previous sprint becomes the priority of the next sprint. And that is why, again, it is important to keep track of the backlogs, prioritize your work in the backlog, and then again keep on refining this process. You see, there is no template-based solution to software development. You do, you learn, you see what is not working, then you go back, then you do it again. So this is how it's supposed to be, and it is okay. It's absolutely okay if it's like this, because your learning curve and your trajectory is slowly developing, and that is always more important. So here I will show you, like for example, this is a roadmap of a product, say teams in space. So ideally you should also make a roadmap of the project that you are doing. So this project has been divided into some epics. So these are called as epics in Agile methodology. So what happens is first they will do this, then between this and this. So this is essentially the first initiative in the project. So they are thinking that they need to create a website. So this is a fictitious product. This is the timeline. So what generally happens is they pick this up. So this is the first thing. So this is the first module they were developing. As you can see in the roadmap, there are 4 modules. This is the first module that needs to be developed. Now, then you break down this first module. So this is the first module, which is called as epics in Agile methodology. It's a large body of work. Then you break it down. So on the website, there is a user management section. It's travel, reservations, and promos and offers. And inside of this, there are user stories. So these are the smaller parts. So in user management, you will create an account, store payment information, link family profiles, and so on and so forth. Similarly, in reservations, you need to book space travel and all these things. So different type of travels, and then promos and offers. You see, when we can plan clearly, you see, if there's one thing you can try to see how this big piece of work has been broken down into subparts, and these subparts then again have their subparts. So now obviously you will tackle one thing at a time in the sprint. So basically maybe these might become sprints depending on the number of people in the team. So this is how the Agile methodology works. So as I've already told you, user story is basically an informal or general explanation of the software feature written from the perspective of the end user. So if you're creating a library management system, user story could be booking an issue, getting the book issued, or getting it returned, something like that. So in very simple words, user stories generally become the objectives of the sprints. You're trying to accomplish something in it, and multiple user stories may form a part of the epic, as I show in the next diagram. So if this is your project, You break it down into epics. Then these epics are broken down into stories and subtasks, stories and tasks, and which are further broken down into subtasks. So as a homework for you guys today, try to go back to your project. Try to then again go back to the functional requirements that you have identified for your project. And from that, try to create this diagram. What will constitute an epic? What will constitute a story or a subtask? And then try to organize this and visualize how the software process will look like. So essentially, agile software thrives on breaking a complex software into smaller chunks known as user stories. And then you focus on user stories, you accomplish it, and then you get the feedback done. So let us try to understand what kind of projects are suitable for Agile and what are the benefits of Agile software development. And I think you can recall the benefits of software development using Agile by the shortcomings of the previous models before it. And we have recurrently discussed it that Agile tries to uh, diminish, if not eliminate, the challenges associated with the previous software development lifecycle models. So, because the feedback is going on, the sprint review is going on, the retrospective is going on, you are in a continuous customer contact. And in the manifesto of Agile also, they had mentioned that collaboration over isolated working. So, in traditional project management methods, customers were only brought into the picture at the very end when the software prototype was ready or the final product was ready, not in the prototype. So that would really have heavy costs if any change was suggested. But in Agile, you are finishing one part, one user story, you are discussing among your team members, you are discussing with the clients and stakeholders. Only when you are fully confident that it is actually working, then you proceed to invest your resources and efforts in the next. Otherwise, mistakes have a way of, you had seen, exponentially messing up with the product development. Because of the nature of Agile, it is more flexible, it is more adaptive to changes. I'm not sure about the faster delivery, but I think what fast means in the concept of Agile is that over the period of time, it is faster because of the errors that can be minimized. The project risks are less because of the review and feedback, and you are also assessing the quality of the product that you are developing. So you see, the beauty of reviewing the work and developing it in shorter chunks, that I hope you can appreciate using the Agile software development. And after today's class, you must ponder on, because this is the last software development lifecycle model that we are studying. You must ponder that what is so good and what is so not good about Agile software development. It's not that if it's the most recent SDLC process used, the others are worthless. No. But what is good for your product, your project? And that is why knowing what you are trying to accomplish is so very, I would say, indispensable to understand that what is the right kind of approach you must use. And Agile provides enough space for innovation also. Why innovation? Because constructive criticism is there in the review and feedback. So even if you create a software resources uh, specification document, you're following an Agile methodology, but even after the sprints, you see that, because of my own empirical experimental observations, I think there is something that needs to change here. And then you again discuss with your team members. And it can be incorporated precisely because the big project has been broken down into multiple sprints. So again, looking back at, and I have a sort of habit of using diagrams to make concepts clear. Again, so that it is printed in your minds. The waterfall release process looks like this. So this is the big launch happening. Back-end, front-end testing, big launch happening. What is happening in Agile is, this is what is happening. So these are sprints. So version 1 is rolled out in sprint 1, then in sprint 2, like this. And look at the size of this ship, the version that is being shipped. So over the period of time, it is like standing up in its own power ultimately. So this is how Agile looks like. Again, using another diagram just to remind you that how from 1980s and 1990s where waterfall was prominent, now we are in 2020, almost 40 years, 4 decades, and how this waterfall model has been replaced in many projects by the agile release process. So this is again a time bound thing, iteration. So this is feeding. So this is like, imagine it like a neural network also, in which the information from the previous layer is getting fed in the next layer, and that is how it is propagating. So this is about agile methodology, but what do you think, is agile methodology always right, or are there any specific kind of projects for which agile methodology is more suitable than the others? What do you think about this? So what kind of products or projects agile would be more suited, and in which kind of scenarios it may not be that suitable? So think of situation in which waterfall would be better than agile. Can you think of any situation?
For making secure and large apps, we need waterfall model, secure apps, which we can't be given in small case like banking software or which is it?
Okay, but even when you're trying to develop a secure system, uh, if you know everything about what you're trying to create, and if it's just a replica of something that has already been created, then yes, waterfall would be there. But suppose if you have developed a secure system and then some hack has been attempted on that system, then what do you do? So again, it always comes down to how the degree of familiarity you have with the problem that you're solving, and not just on surface level, because the devil is always in the details. So the idea behind discussing all these software development life cycles is not to feed your dictionary of software development life cycles theoretically. It is actually to provide you fodder so that you can see which software development life cycle is working in the project that you are doing, and reason that why it is working or why it is not working. So that is the idea, learning by doing. Okay, so agile methodology obviously is not always the best option. It is nothing to feel sad about or feel disappointed about. Uh, it depends on the projects. So when the outcome of the project is stable and well understood, imagine like manufacturing a wristwatch, then obviously waterfall is better because the costs involved are not that huge. So the agile is mostly used to help reduce the cost of change and uncertainty in the project. And bigger the project, so bigger is the cost of change and bigger is the uncertainty involved. And you don't want to, mess up a big project just because you did not break it down into small projects. So that is why when the risks are too high and the stakes are too high, uh, and who determines these stakes? Obviously, you talk to your clients, your stakeholders. So then you determine which kind of methodology is better to follow. When the project is repeatable, deliverable, then there is no need to use agile methodology. You can use waterfall traditional model. Prasad is saying that small apps that do not require constant iterations. Yeah, like for example, making a cam scanner or a reverse image identifier. So all these things, there's a set process that needs to be done unless and until you're trying to scan the image from the video, real-time video, and then trying to reverse scan it. So again, bringing back to your attention to the main point, how well do you know what you're trying to accomplish? That will help you in your decision making and planning related to designing and software specifications and all these things, and also choice of the life cycle model. Sometimes what happens that you're connected to the stakeholders, but they do not want agile. So because you are delivering a project to these people, obviously you have to go by uh, their concerns, you can show them the way, but ultimately if they don't accept, then you have to follow, because these are your stakeholders, you are making a product for them. So that kind of sort of mutual respect is becomes important. And not all organizations may support agile philosophy, so it really depends on the kind of organization you are working on. And that is why the beauty of doing a project in a university setting is that you have lots of liberty and freedom in your hands to experiment and juggle with things that you want to. So just try thinking about all these things. And I think we are at the end of software development life cycles. We have discussed at least theoretically, and now it is time to understand them in a practical manner. So I think that's all for today. So hopefully you will start thinking about the software development life cycle, that approach that your team wants to follow. And I I will be declaring the groups I want to meet today, 4 to 5. So in the next class, we will start talking about the software prototyping, all these kind of things. So I understand I've taken a lot more time today, but that's all from my end. Thank you so much. So I'll see you on Wednesday. And I'm keeping track of the groups that are meeting me, but not for